arenas and fucking threw a bomb to him. All right, let's get started.
All right, and welcome back to the Paisan Sports podcast. Dante DePlacido, joined as always by my colleague, my co-host, the Robin to my Batman. That's right, I am Batman. He is Robin, Zach DeLiano.
You forgot to mention one pronoun for me while you were mentioning all those pronouns that you did.
What's
Father. Father.
That just sounds weird.
Father. Well, I mean, the truth sometimes, is a little weird and a little shaky.
You're not Darth Vader, and I am not Luke. Actually, I am Luke Skywalker, but you're more so Jar Jar Binks. But anyway, Zach Deal of What's the Deal Sports. I gotta ask, what's the deal with Jokic still being the favorite for MVP? He's playing terrible defense. They're losing games. Embiid is on an absolute tear. What more does he have to do? What do you need? Are you not entertained? And that's me mixing one reference, the Seinfeld reference as always, with was that 300 BC? Is that the movie I just quoted?
There isn't somebody doesn't watch movies.
Yeah, I've never actually seen that movie, but I've heard that quote a lot because it's in the beginning of a Jay-Z song.
While we're talking about movies, just to let's say I don't watch movies, I'm so hyped to see the new Scream. That just tells you where my mind is.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
I do want to see it, and I do think it looks good.
Cocaine Bear was good. I saw that.
Yeah, but I'm not into movies, but the one movie I have seen recently. But to get back on topic, we can't be getting too caught off script here. Pun intended. But did I send you that? Did I send you the graphic the other day about? I think it was it's the one big. I forget the name of the Instagram account, but they're one of the bigger NBA content accounts there is. And Jokic, when he guarded, I think it was on Friday night, whatever game that I think they lost to. Maybe the Spurs game it might have been. No, that was last night. Whatever. Whoever they were playing on Friday night, I'm pretty sure that was the game. When being the primary defender, Jokic allowed 19 of 32 field goal attempts to go into the rim, and he just virtually plays no defense at all.
I saw that before you even sent that to me.
And it's just like practically what you want out of your guy. Obviously, Jokic won the award the past 2 seasons. This year even gives him more inclination with how his team is the best team in the West. But then again, I feel like even him averaging the triple-double and everything, like at some point, not being biased, you see the Philo sweatshirt that I'm wearing right now, but like if you watch the Sixers and the dominance that Joel Embiid just constantly every game, like we're talking about his over-unders. I know Jokic is lock. They're putting his numbers like at plus 140 or even sometimes minus 110 to get a triple-double that night. But Joel Embiid is a lock every night for 30 points. He's been assisting the ball well. Sometimes he's a little bit too dominant and needs to kick the ball out, but that's really his only thing. And he gives you the defense. We've been arguing, but the thing is, like, not to cut you off, but the thing is, like, I don't even really know what to say because it's the same argument every time. We know what both of them provide. Jokic's team's obviously number one in the West, but it's like,
well, wait, here,
Joel just does more.
Let me stop you there because here's the issue, and I've brought this up previously on the podcast. I don't want to hear a damn thing about seeding because last year the Sixers were 4th in the East. The Nuggets were either 6th or 8th. And they gave it to Jokic. The year before that, Embiid, he missed a lot of games, but the Sixers were 1st in the East. The Nuggets were a bottom seed that year as well, and they gave it to Jokic. So I don't want to hear anything about seeding if it didn't matter when Embiid had the higher seed, but it matters when the Nuggets do. The other thing, too, is you can say seeding all you want, but when you look at the records, the Sixers have 1 less win than the Nuggets right now? It's either 1 or 2 less wins.
Yeah, the comparison that I make is like the Kings, who are the 2 seed, I think still currently after the weekend, they had the same record as like the 4th or 5th team in the East.
Yeah, so if the Nuggets were in the East, they wouldn't be the 1 seed.
Yeah, but even with that said, like I will chime in to give credit to Jokic because it's not only just about like what he's done winning the MVP the past 2 seasons. Now on top of his personal success, it matches with the team success. So that's why I'm saying it's even more incentive for him to win the award.
Right now, Jokic has the best squad around him he's had. I mean, Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, 100%. Really, but even with that all said, they're all still guaranteed second fiddle players. Like I used to argue even with during the bubble, like Jamal Murray Murray, what he was doing. Obviously, he got injured past after that, and he's making his way back. But I used to argue that in crunch time, scoring-wise at least, Jamal Murray is more important to the Denver Nuggets than Nikola Jokic. But we haven't seen that on display over the past couple seasons with Murray being injured. Michael Porter Jr. is a perfect piece. That was a piece that I was saying the year that he was coming out, the Sixers either had like the 10th pick or the 12th pick, and with the size that they already commanded on the floor, his athleticism being 6'10" at the 3, small forward position, you can move him to the 4 if you want to, would have been a perfect fit for the current Sixers in that state that had Ben Simmons on the team. So they definitely have good pieces. We talked about KCP being my favorite role player in the entire NBA. He's a perfect player. He's been shooting ridiculous, like over 42 to 43% for the past couple seasons, and he was just in no man's land, stuck on the Washington Wizards, not doing anything. And now he gets this opportunity to show what he's about in a good team. The Clippers got rid of Reggie Jackson. Now he's a Denver Nugget. Like, they have a bunch of depth, and they have a really good team.
That's the thing, is they don't have any other big stars surrounding Jokic, but it's one hell of a supporting cast.
Yeah, and it's all the glue to that entire supporting cast is Nikola Jokic.
Here's the other thing is Jokic did not deserve the award over Embiid last year. Not by any sense, in my opinion. I mean, Embiid was the first center in a very long time to average 30 points per game.
He was a scoring leader.
He won the scoring title. Sixers were the highest seed. Jokic wasn't putting up the numbers he's putting up this year. The Nuggets weren't as good of a team as they are this year, but they gave it to him anyway. So now you're in a situation where Jokic has a much better case for MVP this year than he did last year, in my opinion. But the issue is, you can't give a guy like this the MVP 3 straight seasons. I mean, because
I just want to, it gets caught up on narratives at a certain point, because I feel like Joel Embiid, not only for not playing all the games and his durability is his biggest issue, I think also the fact that They brought it up now that they're looking into like certain thresholds amounts of games that need to be played for these season awards. They actually just announced that today.
Here's the other nonsensical thing is last year a lot of people brought up the argument on how many more games played Jokic had than Embiid. Embiid still played 68 games last year. He wasn't that many
I think
behind,
that would be enough.
He wasn't that many behind Jokic, and most of the games he missed, a very high majority of them were due to COVID. So it's not even like he had an issue of staying on the court. He was literally out with COVID. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that. That's not a testament to how good of a player you are, how durable of a player you are. None of that. It's COVID. What else can you do? But that's the thing. You can't give Jokic 3 MVPs in a row. That's unheard of.
Well, that's why I talk about the narrative playing, is because if you look at NBA history, if LeBron's not going to win that award 3 years in a row, you cannot give that to somebody else that's not going to win that 3 years in a row.
And
LeBron was the number one person that got screwed over by the MVP award over the past couple decades.
If voters fatigue exists for somebody like LeBron James has not won an MVP trophy since 2013. Now, as much as I like to hate on LeBron, you cannot say for a second.
And they just did a recent poll with coaches. They did a recent poll with former players and coaches, and LeBron, out of 101 people that they polled, is still considered the best player in the NBA in 2023, 28%.
So here's the thing. As much as I like to hate on LeBron, you could not convince me that there hasn't been a season since 2013 where LeBron wasn't the best player in the NBA and deserving of an MVP award. He didn't get the MVP award anymore after his 4th one, 2013, because of voters fatigue. So that exists for the second greatest player of all time, but it doesn't exist for Nikola Jokic. I mean, I don't understand what is the huge fascination with him to where you're going to give him 3 MVP awards in a row. I mean, at
the end of the day, dude, aside from the MVP award, there's no argument that he should be in the top tier of the MVP race. There's no argument for that. What he's doing is what he's
in the league.
I agree. He's not the best player in the league, but what he's doing is absolutely ridiculous. So you have to tip your cap to that. You have to tip your cap to that.
But he's not playing defense, and that's a big part of the issue.
Yeah, but that's the rarity of Joel Embiid. Nobody really plays defense. He's name another. We just watched on Wednesday night in a primetime game where a team that traded multiple first-round picks now to only implode and trade one one of their best players that was supposed to be a part of what they were doing in D'Angelo Russell and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, with Karl Anthony Towns hurt, getting rid of D'Lo, now you only have Anthony Edwards, who I'm one of the biggest Anthony Edwards fans. I think he's phenomenal. I think he has a chance to be one of the top 5 players in the league in a couple years.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Rudy Gobert, he's seen as the best defensive big man in the league. He won't even cover Joel Embiid.
Well, look,
like the defense is just a rarity. Robert Williams is another considered best big in the league.
I think Gobert's.
I know he plays a certain way of defense. We saw it last year in the playoffs. That's why Jalen Brunson got paid, and now he's building off of that because he would just stop in the paint and hit a little floater, and that's why they won that series over the Utah Jazz. And it wasn't really an upset. It was just seen more so. The Utah was good in the regular season the way they played, but their format and the way that they played in their scheme just wasn't going to work and translate to the playoffs. But now Robert Williams, another one of the best defensive big men in the league. How many times do you see Robert Williams even take the court a year? I mean, it's like almost like, oh, he needs to get his knee drained. He's out for 6 weeks again. You know what I mean? But he's phenomenal when he does play and is an X factor for the Celtics. But good defense, especially interior good defense, is just not really a thing anymore in the NBA. So I feel that's not discrediting Joel because he does play good interior defense.
But that should be the reason why Embiid deserves the award.
It's an offensive league.
Yes, and who's the top scorer in the NBA right now? Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Who's also playing elite defense.
You're adding.
So how, if defense is such a rarity and the best offensive player in the league currently is also elite on defense, then he should be given the award, not a guy who plays
I'm not
defense,
arguing
but
about
he's good at passing.
See, I'm not arguing about like what you're saying. I'm just like trying to argue that I'm not trying to discredit Nikola Jokic. What he's doing is phenomenal, but just this year he should not be the MVP. And that's why they brought up like the threshold that you need to play a certain amount of games. Another thing of what we were talking about in the beginning about the Sixers kind of being victims, specifically Joel Embiid and the MVP race being victims too, is I feel like they kind of always seen the West as the power conference, and now that's not actually the case. The East is better than the West this year, so that should give more incentive to Joel's doing this in the East with one of the best records in the league.
But
like the Nuggets have one of the best records in the league, but out of what the Sixers are doing, if you take Joel off that team, I mean, you saw when he was hurt, they were kind of a mess in the beginning of the year. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and he was even playing throughout some of those games, but the Sixers also, since like the beginning of December, had the best record pretty much in the entire NBA over that stretch of time because they were like battling 500 for the first couple months of the season when they had all 4 of their best players just rotate and getting injured. Yeah, it's primarily the 3 best players.
Yeah, so. Ever since the team has been back at full health, they've been a lot better. Embiid has been absolutely carrying the team lately, hitting the game winner a few nights ago.
Hasn't been rebounding the ball as well as he should be of recent, but I mean, it is what it is. There's other guys on the court.
But that's also in it. Like,
if Joel
they've still been winning with Jokic. When you talk about Embiid's issue lately, it's been rebounding, but they've still been winning. When you talk about Jokic's issue lately, his poor defense, they have not been winning despite of it. They've been winning despite of Embiid rebounding less, but the Nuggets have been losing due to not only his poor defense recently, but also I didn't catch the Nuggets game. I think it was last night or yesterday afternoon. I didn't catch it, but I saw that he missed like a game-tying free throw.
Oh, he also, had like 35, 11, and 10. So
yeah, but if you're not,
Joel, I'm not gonna like because you're making it out to be like this is what Joel's doing, and then look at what Jokic is doing. I'm not making it out to be that. I'm giving credit where credit's due.
Here's the thing: numbers are one thing, but a big part of who's the MVP is who's showing up late in the game when it matters most. And if Embiid is hitting the game-winning shot and Jokic is choking in the clutch, then that supports Embiid's argument even more. I don't care what his stat line was up until he choked in the clutch. He choked in the clutch.
Just missing a shot at the buzzer, I wouldn't be considered.
Well, no, I'm saying no.
I've seen Joel miss shots.
Hold on. You didn't let me finish before you cut me off. Before that, it was more than just missing a buzzer beater shot. He missed a game-tying free throw. He missed another shot, and then he missed the shot, the buzzer beater. He missed 3 shots that could have helped the Nuggets win. So
okay, well, I don't want to make it out to be trash and Joel or anything like that, but Joel missed 6 free throws the other night. Like it goes,
and they still won. That's my point.
Yeah, and they have James Harden and Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, and they have Jamal Murray.
James Harden is significantly
KCP.
better than the next second best player on the Nuggets. Significantly better, not even close.
But who was carrying most of the load in those wins? Joel Embiid. You can't say they won because of Harden's performance. It was a big help.
Recently they've been winning.
He started off the game missing free throws, but then he was money from the line.
Yeah, I'm not here to trash Joel, but I'm also not here to just blindly blindly say stuff about Nikola Jokic that I personally don't think is accurate. So
I think it's accurate.
I'm not saying everything you just said is wrong.
He sucks or anything. I think he's a hell of a player, but I'm just pointing out the differences that make Embiid better.
Yeah, he's better, 100%. But I'm not going to try and nitpick every little thing that Nikola Jokic is doing when he's averaging 24, 11, and 10.
Because the media nitpicks everything Embiid does wrong, but they ignore it for Jokic. So that's why I'm here to nitpick everything Jokic does wrong, because they do that for Embiid, but not Jokic. So that's where I step in.
With that statement, I would agree to an extent. But
exactly.
Let's move on from some NBA talk. We got the NFL free agency cooking up. It is not official NFL free agency, but at noon today, you are allowed to negotiate contracts that could be set in stone later on this week. I believe Wednesday is when that exact period opens, but you can agree to deals. So we see a lot of different stuff going on, especially at the beginning of the window. Biggest local news for the Philadelphia Eagles. First off, let's start off with my personal priority free agent, moving on to what is seen as our outside the division current rivals in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers, cashing in on our biggest free agent. It's a tough pill to swallow. There's no way around it. It's a tough pill to swallow.
It's a tough pill to swallow to lose him. I think this rivalry is getting a little overblown by Eagles fans. The thing about the rivalry is it's the evolution of what the rivalry can turn into, because both these teams look like they're head and shoulders set up better than every other team in the entire NFC. And it doesn't even look close at the current moment. A lot of Eagles fans are looking at it as a rivalry because of all the crap the 49ers players were talking after we beat them.
I don't even think it's like that, but
I think that's a big reason why. But I think that's something that just happened. It's over with now. I'm just saying, I'm not upset he went to the 49ers of all.
It's not I'm more upset just because I didn't even really process that could be a possibility that he's moving on. And then when you saw the contract, it kind of tempers my emotions a little bit, because at the end of the day, $21 million per is a lot. Especially, he's a phenomenal player. I think by far the best defensive lineman in this free agency class, and it's not even remotely close. It's head and shoulders. Just he's by far the best defensive lineman in this class. $21 million for 4 years. He's that's going to probably venture out to when he's kind of fading a tad bit, but Jordan Davis is kind of a specialist right now, so I expect him to uptick and get some more playing time. They obviously got Brandon Graham back, but they're going to have to address the interior defensive line, because like I said, I didn't really expect them to let Javon Hargrave walk, but if it was going to be for $21 million. Now, when seeing that move, Dante, I'm going to let you comment on exactly how you feel about Javon Hargrave specifically, but first, let me ask you, when you see that move, what do you think the corresponding move is? Do you now think that money is now opened up for CJ Gardner-Johnson or James Bradbury to return, or where do you think that money's going? But with that all being said, Jason Kelce coming back, don't sleep on that still being around 15 to 16 million per year, so that takes some money away as well. But you lose Isaac Seumalo in free agency.
Well, here's the thing. Losing Isaac Seumalo in free agency isn't really an issue.
That's not a big deal at all to me.
Because, I'll tell you why, is because now they're just going to move Cam Jurgens over to guard, which it's now just becoming a reoccurring cycle. Wait, let me finish my thought.
All right,
come on.
All right,
you keep cutting me off here. It's now a reoccurring cycle of Eagles drafting Kelce's replacement in the second round, and then Kelce doesn't end up retiring, and that replacement gets moved over to guard. That happened with Landon Dickerson a couple years ago. Now Cam Jurgens. Who knows?
I feel like it was a tad bit different situation because Landon Dickerson played at Alabama kind of by default at center and had the versatility to move around. Cam Jurgens is a center that is going to have some growing pains going to the guard position, but eventually I think it'll work out. But I wanted to cut you off just real quick because I don't want to dive too deep into it. Just a little thing. I would not be surprised if the Eagles, even at number 10 overall, still drafted an not an interior offensive lineman, but an offensive lineman. Primarily thinking with that thought process being Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, because I see one of the best guards potentially right from the get-go in the league if you put him inside. So
I think it would be a waste to draft a guard.
Yeah, but you got to think about it because Jason gives you one more year, you move Cam there, and then you have one of the best interior offensive linemen replenish, and then down the line, he's a tackle. So when Lane Johnson, who is obviously in the next couple of years going to be fading in a slight variety, it's hard to keep up, especially somebody built off athleticism. I mean, he's mastered technique, but at the end of the day, everyone fades at some point. You could move him outside to tackle as well if you did that. So there's like different pieces that you could fill with different options to do by doing that specifically.
Real quick though, because you said Kelsey would be about $15 million. His contract for 2022, that was a 1-year, $9 million deal. He's another year older now. I would guess his contract.
No, it maxed out to be, there was a signing bonus or a guarantee in there. It maxed out to be like 14.5 at least. It's facts. They gave him like
I'm seeing the total cap hit. I'm seeing the total.
That's not
cap
the same
hit
as like the signings and the
8.6.
guarantees. That's the year per salary cap hit. There's different signing bonuses, workout bonuses.
Either way, I doubt they're going to spend $15 million.
Well, that's what literally the cap hit last year. The hit that they paid Jason Kelsey last year was in $15 million range. That's what it was. So this year it's either going to climb a little bit.
I'm not seeing any of that.
No, that's what it is.
Anyway, moving on. I think, with money being freed up for not keeping Hargrave, which sucks, but you still have Jordan Davis.
Milton Williams, a lot of people aren't talking about, was a third-round pick, and he's versatile across the D-line.
And then here's the other thing, too, is it's always a possibility to trade up and draft Jalen Carter now, which... I
mean, you don't have to trade up to make that happen on the field.
He's not making it to... He's not falling to the 10th pick. I think they would have to trade up. But anyway, with using that money to keep either Gardner Johnson or Bradbury, I'm easily keeping Gardner Johnson around instead of Bradbury if I'm the Eagles, because you could also use a first-round pick to draft a new corner. I mean, this draft class much more heavily favors corners than safeties. So I'd rather hold on to Gardner Johnson. Also, he's younger, coming off of...
Well, that's what I was going to build off of what you said, is like, if you sign CJ, James Bradbury, that's a championship move to keep your window open for now, even though their window's open, but that even applies, like, bringing back one of the best corners in the league, already seeing what he can be next to Slay with a healthy Vontae Maddox, then you know what you're getting, and that's a championship move to retain that and do that again. If you sign CJ, you get a young guy that is a part of the culture and probably will be named a captain if he's on the team next year. I would assume that he would be named a captain, depending on if Fletch leaves, that opens up a spot. I mean, who better than the vocal leader and like a guy like CJ Gardner Johnson, who also seems like he's mature enough to understand his role in Philadelphia if he's retained here. So adding that ties you to more of a cultural impact that could help the locker room even more. James Bradbury is a really good piece, but I don't know how much that he really... I'm not saying he doesn't fit in, but I don't really know how much like importance around the locker room as a leadership wise that type of move is. And you saw they value that because they brought back Brandon Graham, who had a good year, but they have good edge rushers, but somebody that has versatility across the D-line, can play a little bit of interior, but they value leadership. And that's why getting Jason Kelsey and Brandon Graham back in the past couple of days does a lot more than people just bringing back in-house guys. We're talking about leaders that have been there for the past decade. So that's really important to do. But I'm just trying to figure out and pinpoint, because now TJ Edwards has walked. We talked about the linebacker position and the looming decisions that had to be made there. You have Kaiser White that's also up for free agency, but we know TJ Edwards is gone because he's locked into a contract, and he got around $6.5 million per, which we all expected, which is just too much for the Eagles' current roster for them to retain players. That is too much for a guy that is important. Like when I texted you today and said he was the least important free agent, I'm not trying to downplay him because TJ Edwards is a good player, but he's definitely replaceable and expendable, and they already showed you that by drafting a linebacker that was the most talented in last year's class.
I would have rather had seen Nakobe Dean replace Kaiser White and let Kaiser White walk than TJ Edwards.
But you got to convince, at the end of the day, even by doing that, you have to convince TJ Edwards, like, we knew you were the guy last year in the linebacking core, off-ball wise, and you had a phenomenal season. We're bringing you back, but Nakobe Dean was drafted to be our franchise linebacker. That's just is what it is. That's the facts of the situation.
Yeah, I mean,
so, and you also, every time I bring up Nakobe Dean, I even get more excited about him on the field, knowing that he played with Jordan Davis and knows how to play off Jordan Davis.
Well, yeah, I am, as much as upset to see Javon Hargrave and TJ Edwards go, I am very excited to see Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis together in full force. But, if they don't keep Kaiser White now, I mean, I
think that's still an option, but you also...
It is still an option, and I hope they do, because, I mean, Kaiser White, he's not as good as Edwards was. He's not going to be, obviously, as good as Nakobe Dean, but
I feel
we need
comfortable,
him out there because who else is going to play alongside Nakobe Dean?
Well, this could get a little tricky at times because teams could opt to run the ball against you if you try and play small ball a little bit like this. But you could feel good about venturing down Reed Blankenship and playing him at the nickel linebacker in certain packages. Not all the time because you don't want to just get the ball pounded down your throat by having a smaller by having a smaller option at linebacker out there, but I feel confident with, especially I think that would make Reed Blankenship a better player. Obviously has to fight off blocks versus interior linemen, which would be a struggle in a way, but I think that could get the most out of Reed Blankenship.
Listen, we got out of the days of having just frickin' anybody playing linebacker. I don't want to go back to that by having Reed Blankenship as your number 2 linebacker.
I'm not saying that. I said in certain packages. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to have another option. I think Kaiser White is going to be back with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Me too.
And in a smaller role, I think he's. And the thing is, if you bring back T.J. Edwards, you have to convince him that it's now Nakobe Dean's spot. He's the one. He's the Mike, and then now he's the weak side linebacker. And you have to do some convincing. Now, Kaiser White can just come back to his role, and Nakobe Dean just elevates to where T.J. Edwards was, and there's not that much differences. And Nakobe Dean was studying what T.J. Edwards was doing all last year to be ready for that role.
I think Dean is going to be even better than T.J. Edwards was.
Exactly.
Easily.
So that's why you're saying.
But that's what I'm saying. I would have rather had Dean and Edwards.
Yeah, but you can't be like the mid 2000s Packer or the mid 2000s Bears or like the San Francisco 49ers of the early 2000s. Like you can't just have 4 dominant options at the linebacker position. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
you need
I guess,
one guy flying around. There's the base set. There's the 3 wide receiver set is the most common set in the NFL. That means that you're most likely going to have 3 defense or an extra corner. That's why the nickel is now a starting considered spot, and a slot receiver is a starting considered slot or spot. So that's why now you make the decisions. You can't have all these heavy linebackers like T.J. Edwards. He's good, but like at times he's a mismatch because if you get Austin Eckler, Austin Eckler was a mismatch for anybody, but a player in that type of tool.
But Nakobe Dean is good in pass coverage, so T.J. Edwards can handle the run stopping, and Nakobe Dean can handle. And
Nakobe Dean's just good everywhere. He's just a little undersized, but we've seen undersized guys be able to make it happen. And even saying he's undersized, he's like, if you want to say he's undersized, cool. Most safeties play up around the line of scrimmage just as much as they play back deep, unless you're like a true free safety. How much do those guys weigh? 215, 220? Nakobe Dean's 230 at least. So, and it's not like he's making the transition where a guy talk about transitions. I know Davion Taylor started playing linebacker, but that was an athlete that looked like he had it all, was a 3rd-round pick, but had played like 20 total games of football in his entire life. And you saw how that worked out. So it doesn't always work out having the athleticism edge. But Nakobe Dean has the athleticism edge while being a premier linebacker in the SEC. You know what I mean? So it's
and not only that, we saw, and we talked about this on the podcast the following Monday, but we saw when he stepped in for Kaiser White in the 4th quarter of that one game. I forget which game it was, but he, in very limited snaps, he really showed what he was all about.
The only thing that I see the issue with him as of now, and it's every young player's issue, especially an aggressive defender, he pursues a little bit too heavy, as in he's a little erratic at times. That's what I saw practically from the preseason games. And I remember the one scramble that I think in the Browns preseason game where he met the dude at the pylon, and he could have got there a little bit faster if he was a little bit more under control, and missing tackles a little bit just because he's not under control. But I think that's an issue that could just be fixed with discipline, and I'm really excited for Nakobe Dean to be very back. And he also has crazy leadership traits that you saw on the biggest stages when he was at Georgia. I think everybody's seen the play where his linebacker next to him, who actually went higher than him in the draft, I'm pretty sure he was a 1st-round pick, I'm pretty sure. I think it was the dude from the Packers. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the 1st-round linebacker from the Packers. So the Packers this year drafted a Georgia defensive tackle and a Georgia linebacker in the 1st round, and the Eagles did the same thing by drafting a Georgia defensive tackle and a Georgia linebacker together. So they both did the same thing. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the linebacker, but you saw in that play where Nakobe Dean, he wasn't in the spot that he needed to be. Nakobe chewed him out, but in a leadership type of disciplined way, and told him you need to be better. Dude comes back the next play and makes the play, and then they're dapping each other up, and everything's all good. So he just holds you to a standard, and that's the type of guy you want taking over and leading for your organization and calling the shots on your defense. So if you add add that and bring CJ back with like the leadership that you got with Brandon Graham. We don't know what's going to happen with Fletch, but I think Fletch is going. Would you agree with that?
I don't care if Fletch leaves. He's well past his prime. I mean, I love Fletch and everything he's done here, but I'm very well okay seeing him walk. But CJ Gardner-Johnson, that's a key one. That's a guy they really need to bring back, in my opinion.
Because even with losing Isaac Seumalo, the offense is set. You need a running back, which is the least.
Here's the thing. Here's the other thing too. Is a lot of people are getting, and I just keep checking Twitter while we're live just to see if there's anything going on. But a lot of people are getting like really freaked out about all the key pieces the Eagles are losing currently. But the bottom line is, next year, they're still going to have Jalen Hurts. They're still going to have everybody on offense, even if they lose Seumalo. Move Cam Jurgens over to guard. It's no problem. The offense is still going to be as good as it was last year. Actually, I think not quite as good. I think second-year quarterbacks perform the best basically out of almost their entire career. And I had a theory on that I explained before, but I think the offense is still going to be very, very good. And, the defense, we've lost two guys so far who are replaceable. Nakobe Dean stepping in, Jordan Davis stepping in, but obviously he doesn't give you the pass rushing capabilities Javon Hargrave gave you.
One thing I will say real quickly is I don't know if I would consider Javon Hargrave replaceable, but...
Well, yeah, because that's what I said. You know what I mean?
You could, down the line, have something grow into as good as an option of what he was, but right away, immediately, you're not going to be able to replenish that.
Yeah, no, well, that's what I mean, is pass rushing can't be replaced, but...
I thought the luxury about that situation was that he was kind of a little bit, I mean, everybody inside the NFL circles knows exactly who he is, but he's kind of like, to the media-wise, a little bit unknown compared to one of the better players in the entire NFL. So I thought the Eagles would have the luxury of keeping him in-house and maybe even getting a discount. But like you saw, 4 years, $84 million is just too much. But I mean, when you were talking about the offense, like the offense is fine. They're going to have a new offensive coordinator, a new guy that's calling the shots, but it's somebody that has built a relationship with Jalen Hurts since he's been a toddler. So you feel confident that they have two of the best wide receivers, probably the best wide receiver duo in the entire NFL. You could argue the Bengals have the best trio, but the Eagles have the best duo in the NFL. An emerging young quarterback that not only throws the ball well with two really good receivers, but also runs the ball as good as any other quarterback in the entire league. The only place that they really have to replenish at is the running back position, which is the least expensive of every position on the entire offense.
Well, one thing I want to say about that is, as much as I've always been against taking a running back in the first round, if Bijan Robinson happens to fall to pick 31, I would gladly take him there. I would definitely
He's not going to fall to 31.
If he happens to. I would definitely not take him with the 10th
There's some teams
pick.
like the Patriots.
I don't think the 10th pick is worth drafting a guy you're probably only going to keep for 4 years. But here's the thing is, if they use the 10th pick for a corner or somehow Jalen Carter, then at that point you have the luxury of using the 34th pick for a running back. Like, I don't agree with using a first round pick for a running back, but if it's your second pick in the first round and the rest of your team is very solid, you're coming off a Super Bowl appearance, then you have the luxury to do that. Yeah. So,
and if your team's that good where, like, if it doesn't work out, which I don't see any way that it wouldn't work out, because it's not like Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting drafted into the Chiefs offense where Andy Reid doesn't run the ball or doesn't do it consistently. When he feels the need he needs to run the ball, he'll do it, but he doesn't consistently run the ball. The Eagles offense is built off running the ball, and that's where it starts. Along with having some of the best receivers in the league. So that's just a luxury that they have. Bijan Robinson, if you look at it, every single scout besides PFF, where they're all over the place with grading this guy this way and grading that guy that way. They have like Will Levis as the #1 ranked quarterback in their grading system. So they're all over the place. I do respect them though, but they're all over the place at times. But if you look at any draft scout, the big names, Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, they all have Bijan Robinson as a top 5 player in this draft class. And regardless of how you value a running back, if that passes pick 15 and you're sitting there in the late teens to the early 20s and you can get a guy like that on your team that can come in immediately. And running backs, you can't look at it when you draft running backs, this is what people have to understand. You can't look at it like down the line, oh, I need this guy to get a second contract from me and I don't want to get scammed on trying to overpay him, this, that, the other. Running backs, when you draft them in the first round, you're looking for that immediate impact right off the rip, immediately.
Yeah, but
that's usually those guys that are the big dogs are able to produce that.
Here's the thing, though. I would value long-term over immediate impact. I mean,
that's not realistic for a running back, though. If we're talking other positions,
but that's why I'm against taking first-round running.
But if you get there in the mid-teens, like I just said, and he's ranked consensuously in the top 5 of most people's prospects rankings, and he's there, and your cornerback got drafted, and you need a cornerback, but it'd be a situation where if you drafted this guy just because you need that position, it could turn out to be a Jalen Reagor type of situation, which you obviously know the astronomical mess up that was. And BPA, best player available, is sitting there right in front of you, and you just lost Miles Sanders, who had an outlier career year this past season. How could you not do that? You know what I'm saying? But that would have to be if they're in the mid-teen situation where I wouldn't want to trade back at 10. That's what I originally wanted to do until I did some more research on this draft class. I wouldn't want to trade back at 10 and not have a guy drafted yet and then go get Bijan Robinson by trading back and using those assets in the mid-teens. I'd rather get one of those top, most likely defensive guys at 10 and then maybe use that 31st pick to come scoop back
with
up.
all the talent they're losing on defense, I think using that 10th pick for a defensive player, I think that's a must.
Oh, 100%. But I'm saying if you go back to swoop in on Bijan Robinson using the 31st pick to make that happen, I think that would be the route to do.
Well, yeah, I think
if he's there at 31, you're running that pick to the board.
I think like if Bijan Robinson is still available at, let's say, like pick 22. I mean, I definitely would not be opposed to trading up the 30th pick to, like, let's say pick 22 to take Bijan Robinson, and then you got a guy who just is immediately going to make a major impact on the offense. Plus, the defense improved utilizing the 10th pick. So, it would definitely be cool to see Bijan Robinson on the Eagles. But I also wouldn't mind if they used that 3rd round pick on a running back at all.
Yeah, like I said, the luxury is it's the least expensive position and what they're losing.
I think what would be a really great scenario is if somehow Jalen Carter falls to pick 10. You take Jalen Carter, use the 31st pick to take a corner, and then later on in like the 3rd round, you take a running back to replace Miles Sanders.
We keep messing up this where I want to set in stone. It's the 30th overall pick. I already knew that. I don't know why I kept running with the 31st pick. But there is only 31 picks in the draft this year because of Miami and what they got punished for in the offseason. But like you said, it's the luxury. The only things they truly need for their offense is you already have. So you have 4/5 of your offensive line coming back. 3 of them are all pros. Isaac Seumalo was actually a Pro Bowl alternate, but, I mean, he's expendable in the interior offensive line. Landon Dickerson's turning into one of the best interior offensive linemen in the league. Now you get Cam Jurgens, who was already on your team. You're not bringing him out from an outside source, knows the offense probably by now. So that's pretty much not only you're bringing back 80% of your starting offensive line, but 100% of your projected starting offensive line next year is guys that were in-house, and 4 of them were your starters last year.
I'll tell you one thing. It's really nice seeing, the Eagles from 2017 on. They had a great offensive line with, Jason Peters, Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, and Lane Johnson, all those guys that are older now, and now we're transitioning to the new era of this offensive line.
And look at how the
young guys of Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens. So that's been really
and bringing talent on the offensive line to Philadelphia has never been an issue. Well, we transitioned from Evan Mathis of the world to Brandon Brooks.
It's Jeff Stoutland. Yeah, that's what it is. It's Jeff Stoutland. I mean, when you look at pretty much every young offensive lineman that comes into the city turns out to be a success. I mean, that's 100% on Jeff Stoutland. I mean, Jordan Mailata had never played football before when we drafted him. Do you know why he decided to be a left tackle? Did you ever hear the story behind this?
No, I don't know the exact story.
he liked the movie The Blind Side and was like, hey, I want to play left tackle. It wasn't anything to do with him.
I got to give
like,
he deserves the main credit, but also having veterans, you got to give Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson credit too, because
for sure.
There's no easier transition on top of that of having the best offensive lineman coach in the entire league, but then you also have two guaranteed Hall of Famers. There's no questions about it. They're guaranteed Hall of Famers. They're solidified guaranteed Hall of Famers now, best of their era. Lane's probably going to make the all decades team for this next decade of right tackles, and he might only play for the next 3 years. So
yeah, but yeah, that's the thing is like Jordan Mailata. It wasn't like he was like, okay, let me think, with my size, my strength, my athleticism, what could be the best position for me. He was like, oh, Blindside, that's a good movie. Let me play left tackle. And Jeff Stoutland was like, you want to learn how to play left tackle? Sure, I got you. And he taught him in a couple years, and now he's one of the best left tackles in the league. But
I also think that's a reason.
It's absolutely insane.
I also think
my B-reel just went off. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if we're live on the podcast. B-reel is B-reel. Gotta be real. Crazy. Can't be fake. You know what I'm saying?
But you just completely lost my train of thought by interrupting me like that. I had something important to say.
Well, anyway, transitioning out of...
Oh, man, I had something that I really wanted to say.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's what B-Real does,
Yeah.
Might throw you out of your rhythm. Anyway, transitioning out of football, it's now time for me to give my meatball of the week. And my meatball of the week this week is a guy who committed treason for his country a couple days ago and deserves to be exiled, in my opinion, shipped out of here. I'm talking about Adam Wainwright. Going up against Great Britain, a rivalry that's existed for 300 years. And in the first inning, he throws a hanging curveball, middle of the zone, gets absolutely melted to left center field to give Great Britain a 1-0 lead. Really, Adam Wainwright? You're going to do that against Great Britain? Our biggest rivalry? Our enemy? You deserve to be exiled. You're no longer American. You hate America. I think Adam Wainwright truly does hate America for what he did.
I think Adam Wainwright's a phenomenal player.
I think he's a horrible person.
Do you ever feel like an athlete that's really good at a certain thing, but you feel like his weakness, you could also play it against him to where he might be one of the highest level players in his entire league, but you still feel like even against some random average Joes in the league, in the professional sport that they're in, that you would still have a chance versus them? I feel that way. Justin Verlander would murk me on the plate. I would not be able to hit a baseball. Adam Wainwright, I wouldn't be able to hit your baseball either. But if there was one high-level baseball pitcher that I would be able to hit, it would be Adam Wainwright, because he would be hanging a 70-mile-per-hour curveball where it's I will be able to catch that one time.
Listen, I have a distant relative, right? My half-brother, his cousin. He's a really good high school prospect. I forget what position he plays, but he's a very good hitter. I think he's only in high school, right? I think even he could have hit a home run on that pitch from Wainwright. I mean, that was just.
If you're mentioning somebody as a high level prospect, I think he would be capable of doing that.
But that's the thing. I mean, a high level prospect in high school should not be able to get a hit.
I think a 5-star guard. Let me put it this way: a 5-star guard that's ranked in the top 100. I mean, there's probably only 25 5-stars that I would consider. I would assume there's only 25 total 5-stars in the college or the high school basketball ranks right now. But I would take a 5-star top 25 point guard that has really good driving ability to easily score a basket on Rudy Gobert. Easily score a basket.
Okay,
blow right past him.
That's a bit much.
No. Easily.
Anyway,
6 out of 10.
My point is, Adam Wainwright hates America, and he's my meatball of the week.
Adam Wainwright's brother, I remember reading about it, that his brother was the one that taught him the curveball to throw it that way. And
he should be exiled.
No, his brother. Well. See, the thing is, why Adam Wainwright's curveball is so unique. His brother was left-handed and used to show him the lefty grip on it, but he would throw it with the lefty grip out of his right hand, and that's why it spins crazy, and that's why it moves like that.
And that's why it got melted to left center field.
No, I mean, there was Sunday Night Baseball in the summer in July where in Citizens Bank Park, he was hanging balls like that, and Reese was just taking them deep, and that's that's the capability, and that's only going to be highlighted even more with the improvements to this Phillies roster.
But listen, enough to harp on, Adam Wainwright. let's talk about the good from that game against Great Britain. By the way, actually, first I would just like to say how good it feels to beat Great Britain. I think the final score was 6-2. I mean, you're talking about a country of people who, before we matched up against them in the World Cup, we're talking all kinds of smack, right? That's their biggest sport. That's their main sport over there in England, soccer. And America, it's our fourth sport, or our fifth sport. We hardly care about it. And we tied with them in the World Cup, right? So now you take our main sport against the sport they barely care about, same situation but flip-flopped, and we beat the snot out of them. That's what happens. They blew a 13 colony lead. This is the sort of stuff they're used to. America has actually never lost to England in any sense.
I would not say baseball. I mean, it might have the tag of being America's pastime, but it is nowhere near our main sport. Nowhere
It's
near.
One of our four major sports.
Football
it's one of our four major sports is what I'm saying.
And every other American sport is
okay, you're getting off top. My point is it's one of our four major sports, okay? But did you know we've never lost to England in any sense? We never lost a World Cup game against them. We've never lost a war to them. We've never lost a World Baseball Classic game against them.
Let's keep it that way.
Even the War of 1812, that was a draw. So we always either draw.
I didn't know we were getting into history lessons here today.
We always either draw or we beat them. They can't beat us. They've never done it. They're never going to do it. USA will always come out on top against England. I mean, this is a country that, you know what they eat for breakfast? They eat baked beans on toast. That's their breakfast.
Yeah, that's gross. Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't expect anything positive to come from a country that eats baked beans on toast for breakfast, and they're like, "Oh, this is good, isn't it? It's good breakfast, isn't it?" Yeah, it's disgusting.
I mean, I won't tie myself to mocking them and all that stuff that you're doing, but
they have disgusting teeth.
All right, well, now you're just getting down the line of unnecessariness, so we're going to cut you off.
They barely wash their hands over there.
All right, so we're going to cut you off.
Okay, all right. But on to the good that I was going to get to about this. One of the Phillies players, Kyle Schwarber, hit a 3-run bomb in that game over the pool in right center field to really break the game wide open for Team USA. It's really good seeing, after seeing Kyle Schwarber really come through big for us in the playoffs, and now see him come through big for our country.
And hit a home run where there was actually people on base.
Yeah, because he's not batting leadoff. Because he's not batting leadoff over there.
That was pretty cool to see too. Him hitting a home run with people on base.
I'll let you get to what you were about to say, but real quick, I wanted to share a stat that I saw yesterday about Kyle Schwarber that's very impressive. Because Kyle Schwarber has now homered in the NL Wild Card, the AL Wild Card, the NLDS, the ALDS, the NLCS, the ALCS, the World Series, and the World Baseball Classic. So in any possible stage you can hit a home run, and Kyle Schwarber has done that. And I think that's very impressive.
That is very impressive.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there. Hopefully that carries on into the baseball season in the major leagues.
Well, you know what? It's looking like he's not going to be batting leadoff this year.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what he can do with his power.
But with that being said, Trey Turner had 100-plus RBIs last season, but he wasn't batting leadoff. Mookie Betts was batting leadoff. So there's going to be a transition period a little bit for maybe the expectation of what we think like the bang and Trey Turner's bat is. Because I think he can still produce, but we're not probably going to be venturing into those type of runs batted in numbers until maybe later on in the season. But I don't really care what Trey Turner does in the regular season as long as he's just the player as advertised, as in being a 300-plus career hitter and getting on base and producing runs. And then if he can add some pop and some bang into the bat come playoff time, then sign me up for that. But I'm not worried about the bang in his bat, even though I expect there to be a little bit of an uptick to that. Maybe just homers wise, but like I said, I'm tempering the expectations on the RBIs because of the role that he's going to be in now. There's always a transition period. The biggest role in the batting order that I'm really interested in to see where they put Nick Castellanos at. And I think maybe the 6 hole might be the best spot, because you look at all the batters that they had now and the players that they're fielding now. I mean, he's just going down the totem pole. But if you can get something out of somebody like that in a more minored role than what he was playing before, then that's just going to make your team that much better.
So propose to me your ideal starting lineup for the Phillies this upcoming season.
My ideal starting lineup for the Phillies, as in batting order.
Yeah.
1, Trey Turner. 2, I would probably put Schwarber.
Okay.
I would probably put Schwarber. You can argue JT, which I would like a lot too. JT could be 2. So it's either Kyle Schwarber or JT. And then that would kind of be vice versa to either or being 2, who would be 3. Or when Bryce comes back, you can put Bryce at 3. But I like Bryce in the 4 hole.
I would keep Bryce at 3. I like Bryce at 3 because he's a high average hitter. So when I look at that, I look at, let's say it's the first inning, first 2 guys get out. Now there's 2 outs. You have your 3-hole hitter up. I want my 3-hole hitter to be a guy that can hit for contact and has good power, because if those guys are on base, I want a guy with power in the 3-hole.
Well, that's why I think
no one on base. I want somebody who's a good contact hitter, who's also good at getting on base, a high on base percentage hitter, because then you want to keep the inning alive for the 4-hole.
Well,
that's why I like Bryce Harper at 3.
As crazy as it is to sound, I think Schwarber wouldn't be good in the 3-hole just because you'd want him in either cleanup. You put Bryce at 3. So probably if I'm going to redo this list with some consideration, because I was kind of caught me a little off guard in the beginning. Trey Turner 1. This is with everybody healthy. So right. Bryce is back. We're in July now. Trey Turner 1. JT at 2. Bryce Harper at 3. Schwarber at 4. Hoskins.
I agree with that 1 through 4.
Hoskins and Castellanos is a tough pick at 4 or 5 and 6. I would probably go Hoskins because he has a little pop.
I'd go Castellanos at 5.
I think Castellanos is a better overall hitter, but Hoskins definitely has more pop in the bat. So if you strike out, not more so figuratively than literally, if you strike out on that 4-hole with the cleanup, you still have stuff on base for Hoskins to come and produce. Castellanos at 6. And then I was thinking about, this is where it gets a little gray area, but I was thinking about more so you don't want to have the back of your lineup just be all your worst hitters. You know what I mean? I feel like you want to keep some juice alive for Trey Turner if he's not the leadoff guy for that inning, so he could actually produce something if that's possible. So you'd probably still put Brandon Marsh at 9. I know I'm going a little backwards here from coming off 6, but probably Brandon Marsh at 9. Bryson Stott maybe at 7, just like sneak him in. And then...
Well, no, I would put Bohm at 7.
Yeah, I mean, you could still argue Bohm to be in front of Castellanos, maybe. In a way, maybe. It's tough because they have a lot of guys that don't really... The issue with the speed is like what it is, because I would like to have a little bit of speed like throughout my lineup, but I mean, JT and Trey Turner are the only ones that really provide speed at all. So you have a bunch of guys that have big bats, but it's going to be interesting to see how they shape out the order.
Here's why I would like Brandon Marsh at 9. A guy who on the Phillies, not with the Angels per se, but on the Phillies, did a decent job getting on base. He's got good speed. I like the now, while Gabe Kapler was in Philly, obviously he didn't have any success, but one idea that he brought to the team that I was a fan of is, and this was before the DH role was a thing. I don't know if you remember him doing this, but he sort of brought in the idea of a secondary leadoff hitter. Basically, he would take, I forget who it was at the time, but it was a speedy guy who would get on base, and he would have the pitcher bat 8th sometimes and put this guy at 9. Because that way, if you put somebody who can get on base who's fast in the 9-hole, that's after you start off the game with your 1-hole hitter, right? Then it's not really just a straight line 1 through 9. It's kind of a circular movement of hitters coming in and out. And so when you have somebody right before the actual leadoff hitter, it kind of works as a secondary leadoff guy. Because if you're starting off the inning with your 9-hole hitter right before your 1-hole hitter, a guy like Trey Turner who can drive in runs, if you have a guy before him who can get on base and has speed, then it kind of works as a secondary leadoff hitter. So that's why I like the idea of Brandon Marsh at 9. He's kind of like a secondary leadoff hitter. So that was an idea Gabe Kapler brought around. And with having a guy like Trey Turner who can hit leadoff and can also drive in runs, I like the idea of having somebody like Marsh in the 9-hole.
Yeah, I think that's just the way that it'll shape out to be. Like, he's a kind of inconsistent hitter, but he does provide at times. And if he gets hot, having that at the back of your lineup is a good option. But you're not going to ever put Bohm probably at the 9 hole, but it would be interesting to see if they did do that. I wouldn't be against that, though, because that kind of plays into the narrative that you just talked about. And you could get fresh at bats with Alec Bohm up at plate and then maybe starting an inning with Alec Bohm and Trey Turner. But I don't think that's that important down the line. It's more so, I think this team set in stone. I don't want to jinx anything, and I don't even think it's crazy to say, but I think this team is guaranteed going to make the playoffs, and it really matters the shape of the team at that point in time instead of just trying to project. I know it's the recent biasy of the season right looming around the corner, but I think things from how they start this season to the midway point to the playoffs is just going to be different because the addition of Bryce Harper, and they're going to do a lot of experimental things without Bryce Harper just to see how their team reacts.
Well, actually, if we want to talk about the lineup without Harper, I think realistically, except for against lefties, Derek Hall is probably going to be the DH. And in that case, I like Derek Hall in the cleanup spot in that scenario. He batted cleanup quite a bit while he was filling in for Harper last season. I like him in that cleanup role. And then I would take Schwarber. Probably put him at 2 and have JT at 3, and then Derek.
I think
Hall
you're also going to see a lot. Like, you're going to have a start-setting lineup that's like 7 guys pretty much every day, but you're going to see a lot of rest time between Bryson Stott's position and a guy like Edmundo Sosa.
Yeah,
that's not going to be a guarantee. There's going to be a split between where it's like
Sosa is going to be a key utility player for the Phillies.
He's going to start probably 2 to 3 times a week, I would argue.
Well, and not only
and that might even be taking some Bryson Stott, but the center field too. He might take Brandon
because
Smart.
they had been teaching him to play center field this offseason, the spring training. So I think you're going to see a lot of Edmundo Sosa. And I think I'm a big fan of Edmundo Sosa.
I think they're realistic what they can get defensively from Nick Castellanos now. I mean, dude was playing out of his mind for a little bit of time in the playoffs defensively, but I think they're realistic to where they might have crazy bats in the outfield, but their defense is a little bit lacking in that department. So that's why they're having Trey Turner actually has a little experience. They're never going to venture him out to the outfield.
So that's the thing is you can. That's not
going to be a thing, though.
You can
that's
give
not Trey Turner going to the outfield.
You can give Castellanos a day off, move Marsh from center field to left, and put Edmundo Sosa out there in center. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you can do. But we are unfortunately out of time for today's episode. Zach, do the outro.
Make sure you guys go check out the Discord. We got 360 plus people in there now. The number is growing by the day. Once we get a certain number eclipsed in the Discord, we're going to be giving out some stuff. So make sure you guys go check out the What's the Deal Sports Discord. Every sport is handled. We have March Madness. We're going to do a bracket for March Madness as well. We have that right around the corner. So make sure you guys hop in there and get involved with that. We are live on Facebook right now. We got the Twitter page. We got Instagram and TikTok all juiced up with content, so make sure you guys go check all that out, and we'll be back later on this week.
Sayonara.